After working on my farming simulator for a few weeks, one thing I thought it desperately needed was a cozy town. A place where you can obtain new items to improve your farm and to learn about the world and the people that live in it. More than that, it's also an interesting place to be, where you can explore every nook and cranny, or just relax and watch the world go by. A farming simulator without a town simply isn't the same, and that's why recently, most of my work has been on adding a town to my game. The first major step I made in this direction was to overhaul the lighting system, which is crucial to give the town the right atmosphere. Now, objects such as the player can give off a bit of light to see clearly in the dark. This is very useful, but it also makes the game more pleasant to look at least I think so. The implementation is very simple, and is quite similar to some of my past work. Basically, any light that exists will be added to the lighting layer. This is the layer that makes it appear dark at night, which works by multiplying a dark color with all of the pixels on screen. When a light is added to parts of this dark color, you're essentially multiplying the other set of pixels by 1, meaning they're illuminated. This system was fairly easy to set up, though I had to make an additional consideration for handling the sky. Unlike many other scenes where everything you see is fairly close, the clouds in the background are very far away. So while it makes sense that they would be illuminated by the sun or moon, it doesn't make sense that they would be illuminated by some small light from the player. To fix this, I created a mask that only includes objects in the foreground, so that the lighting from close objects acts more realistically. It was definitely worth it because it looks much better. There's still some other quirks with the lighting, like appearing in front of objects the light source is behind, but there's nothing that's too disruptive, so I'm done working on it for now. With that settled, now you need a way to actually reach the town. In the context of a floating sky world, there are many creative ways you could achieve this, but I decided on having transport wires placed around the world that you can grab to move quickly along their length. I think this choice is more appropriate because it's more restrictive than something like flying, but it also preserves your sense of position unlike a teleporter. I also think they're just plain fun to use. At the moment though, they're very unpolished, so there's definitely more work to be done on them. Now we can finally move on to the town itself. You access it by using a transport wire, and once you get there you can explore to your heart's content. It's obviously still rough around the edges, but I tried my best to get a lot of its main features implemented, starting with the layout. The town is made up of a large central area, which is where most of the activity is going to be, surrounded by many smaller areas that are more secluded. I wanted the town to feel compact, while still giving you the opportunity to explore it and encounter interesting things. I could also close certain bridges until later in the game to give a better sense of progression. In addition to the layout, I added a bunch of houses to fill out some of the space. So far, most of them don't represent any specific place, but it's useful to see how each building fits into the town so that I can know what might go there in the future. Currently, there are only 2 buildings I know that I want to include, and those are the shop and the library. The shop is pretty self-explanatory. You need to buy things for your farm, so you can buy them there, probably somewhere near the town center. The library, on the other hand, is a bit less obvious. I want to use it as a spot where the player can learn more about the world, and I might also place key story moments there. I'll certainly add more buildings as well, those are just the 2 I have a clear idea of what their purpose might be. The next biggest thing I added was light sources. There are street lights which are white, and lanterns which are more orange. With the new lighting system, they definitely add a lot to the atmosphere of the town, especially at night. The streetlights are better suited for the busier areas of town, while the lanterns work best in the more hidden areas. For the most part, I just place them around randomly, but I found that it's best to leave a lot of space between them so that they stand out more. This also doesn't hurt the visibility too much, because a player's own light is good enough most of the time. I also added a lot more decorative objects, like the crates, bridges, paths, planters, and arches. I was hoping to make the environment less barren, and I think I succeeded, though of course I'd still like to add a lot more. Of these objects, the bridge was definitely the most annoying to implement, because it has to adapt to any bridge shape. In the end, I think it turned out decently, though something about it still seems a bit off, so I'll probably work on it a bit more. One interesting fun fact about the crate is that the reason it's white is because I hadn't added its color yet, but I actually thought it looked good as is, so I decided to keep it. I feel like this gives the town more of a distinct identity, so maybe I'll try to give unique designs to more common objects. The last thing I added to the town was NPCs, because what good would a town be without residents? You can find them all around, and they all wear large cloaks. I don't actually plan on keeping all of the residents cloaked, I only added that graphic as a placeholder. Though honestly I like how it looks, so I might keep it for 1 or 2 characters in the final game. If you interact with any NPC, they'll tell you whatever interesting thing is on their mind. Currently the text is placeholder too, so none of it is particularly meaningful, though I guess it's still kind of interesting. All of the text is presented in a pop-up. I'm going to be using pop-ups in more contexts, so I tried to make them as modular as possible. In this case, the pop-up is given a specific style associated with short messages. And in the future, I want to add styles that support menu selections and maybe different positions on the screen. Overall, I'm really happy with how the town is turning out, and I can tell that it has a lot of potential. Before I end, I'd like to briefly mention the HUD, which is a bit separate from all of the other town stuff. I moved the clock to the top right corner to open up more screen space in the middle. I added outlines to the text, and I also slightly changed the style of the graphical elements. It's still a work in progress, though I do think this is a clear improvement over the previous version. Moving forward, I think I want to spend more time finalizing the farming mechanics and better integrating the farming experience with the town. Because right now they almost feel like 2 completely separate games, and it would be nice to have a more cohesive experience. Thanks for watching. Bye.